Right now, somewhere on your phone, there's a notification about a war. You probably scrolled past it this morning without really stopping. Just another headline in the feed. But think about that impulse behind it. The drawing of lines, the us versus them, the willingness to organize violence against another group of people. That's not new. It's not even close to new. It's older than cities, older than writing, older possibly than our own species. So here's the question. When did humans actually invent war, and why did we ever start? Let's go back, way back, before we even get to humans. In 1974, a researcher named Jane Goodall was watching a community of chimpanzees in Gombe, Tanzania, when something happened that changed how scientists thought about violence forever. The group split, and over the next 4 years, the larger faction systematically hunted down and killed the members of the smaller one by one in coordinated raids. Scientists now call it the Gombe Chimpanzee War. Chimps planning, ambushing, killing their own former neighbors. Here's the thing, chimps share about 98% of our DNA. So when Goodall documented this, it raised an uncomfortable question. What if the seeds of organized violence didn't start with us? What if we inherited them? That's unsettling, but it's not the same as war. Chimps don't have flags. They don't have generals. So somewhere between that and a battlefield, something changed. Let's fast forward. Way forward. All the way to Sudan along the Nile to a site called Jebel Sahaba. In the 1960s, archaeologists uncovered a cemetery there containing around 61 skeletons. When they examined the bones, they found something chilling. Dozens of them had stone projectile points embedded directly in the bone, arrowheads and spear tips lodged in ribs, skulls, spines. This wasn't a single accident. This was a pattern. The site is roughly 13,000 years old, making it one of the oldest known examples of organized human violence anywhere on Earth. Think about that. Before farming, before pottery, before the wheel, humans were already killing each other, in groups. But here's where it gets even more specific. In 2012, researchers studying a site called Nataruk, near Lake Turkana in Kenya, found something eerily similar. 27 individuals dated to around 10,000 years ago showing signs of a violent massacre. Blunt force trauma, arrow wounds, hands bound. These weren't farmers defending crops. These were hunter-gatherers. Nomadic people, with no permanent homes, no stored grain, no obvious property to fight over. So, why were they killing each other? The leading theory is almost uncomfortably simple. Resources. A good fishing spot, fresh water in a drought, a hunting ground that could feed your children instead of someone else's. Same instinct as a chimp defending territory in Gombe, just with better weapons. Here's what makes this so important. For decades, a lot of anthropologists believed early humans were basically peaceful, that war was invented later by civilization, and that our hunter-gatherer ancestors lived in some kind of harmonious balance with each other. Sites like Jebel Sahaba and Nataruk blew that theory apart. It turns out the capacity for organized violence didn't arrive with kings or empires. It was already baked in thousands of years before anyone built a wall or planted a field. But something was about to change everything, and it wasn't a weapon, it was wheat. Around 10,000 years ago, in the region we now call the Fertile Crescent, humans started farming. And farming changes the entire math of violence. Suddenly there's surplus grain sitting in a storage pit. Suddenly there's land worth defending, season after season, instead of just moving on. Suddenly there are permanent villages, which means permanent targets. Archaeologists have found early Neolithic settlements, places like Çatalhöyük in modern-day Turkey, surrounded by defensive walls and packed with houses that had no ground floor doors, entered only through the roof. That's not random architecture, that's a fortress. You don't build a fortress unless you already know someone might come for what's inside. Fast forward again to around 3000 BCE, in Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This is where things escalate, from violent skirmish to something we'd actually recognize as war. Sumerian city-states like Lagash and Umma started fighting over irrigation boundaries, literally who controlled which stretch of farmland. And this wasn't loose bands of raiders anymore. Kings raised standing armies, soldiers trained, cities built entire economies around conflict. One Sumerian document, the Stele of the Vultures, dated around 2450 BCE, actually depicts rows of soldiers marching in formation, shields locked together, spears raised in unison. That's a phalanx. That's discipline. That's organized state warfare, carved in stone over 4,000 years ago. And once war became organized, it became something else too. It became institutional. Armies needed metal, so bronze working exploded. Cities needed defense, so architecture evolved. Rulers needed loyalty, so religion and propaganda got tangled up with military power. Entire economies started running on conquest. War didn't just happen anymore, it got built. So, here's the full picture. It starts with chimpanzees in Gombe, coordinated raids among our closest relatives, hinting the instinct might predate humanity itself. Then, Jebel Sahaba, 13,000 years ago. Arrowheads in human bone, proof that group violence existed long before farming. Then Nataruk, hunter-gatherers killing hunter-gatherers over resources. No crops, no cities, just survival. Then agriculture flips the incentive completely. Surplus and land worth defending. Walled towns with roof-only doors. Then Mesopotamia. And war stops being chaos. It becomes strategy. Formation. State power. From a chimp defending a fig tree to soldiers locking shields in Sumer. Same impulse, scaled up over millions of years. And that headline you scrolled past this morning? That's the same story, just running on modern hardware. The instinct to protect us from them is one of the oldest operating systems the human mind has ever run. We didn't invent that fear, we just got terrifyingly good at organizing it. So the next time you see a headline about conflict somewhere in the world, remember this. You're not watching something broken in human nature. You're watching something ancient in it. The same instinct that made a chimp defend a fig tree, that made a hunter-gatherer defend a fishing spot, that made a king defend a riverbank. It never left. We just keep finding new places to point it.